Dementia Don. He said what again? Welcome back to DDD because our politicians are real tits. Well, okay, so silicone, they are just as toxic leaking silicone boobs, and this series is dedicated to the actions of DDD. It is all about the art of turning something complicated into a political soundbite, and how a seemingly massive financial win for the US is, in reality, a fantasy. The claim is that the European Union has pledged a $650 billion investment to the US that Donald claims is his to use. Here's the simple truth. The EU doesn't have that money, and even if it did, it couldn't legally give it to him. The reality of EU finances. The EU budget is tiny. The entire long-term EU budget for the period from 2021 to 2027 is a little over 1.1 trillion, or 1.074 trillion. This budget covers all of the EU's spending for 7 years, including agriculture, regional development, foreign aid, and administrative costs for all 27 member states. A slush fund is a myth. The EU budget isn't a giant checkbook that can be handed over to a foreign country. It's a carefully managed fund with specific rules and programs. The annual budget is negotiated and adopted by the European Parliament and the Council, with revenue coming from customs duties, a percentage of each member state's gross national income, and a small portion of VAT. The £648 billion Recovery Fund. It's likely that the figure of $650 billion is a confused reference to the Next Generation EU Recovery Fund, which is a $648 billion facility to help the EU's own member states recover from the pandemic. These funds are specifically for internal use and can't be used for foreign investments in other countries. The legal and economic constraints. State aid rules, EU law, specifically the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union, TFEU, strictly prohibits state aid that distorts or threatens to distort competition by favoring certain companies or countries. A direct, unreciprocated cash payment of $650 billion to the US would be a colossal and illegal form of state aid that would undermine the very principles of the EU's single market. What he's confusing, what Dementia Don is likely doing, is conflating the promise of future private sector investment with a direct government transfer. When the EU and US strike a trade deal, EU companies, like car manufacturers or pharmaceutical companies, may pledge to increase their private investments in the US. The total of these private investments over many years might add up to a large number, but that money is owned by the private companies, not the EU government, and certainly not the US president. The screwing over mechanism. The screwing over in this scenario is a different kind of con. It's not about a specific policy, but about political rhetoric that creates a false reality. By claiming ownership of a non-existent fund, he can later threaten to take it away or use it as a bargaining chip for tariffs, all based on a premise that is fundamentally false. It's a smokescreen for oversimplified trade policy and a way to misrepresent the complex reality of international finance and law.